If you're in this world at all and you're somewhat on social media,
Yeah.
it's overwhelming. You have a lot of competition between creators or even just people saying, hey, if you can't make $10,000 with AI, you're wasting your time.
The earlier version of this was the person who built their brand on LinkedIn by talking about how to build a brand, but they would never really tell you how. So it's important just to remember that if you feel confused, there's a reason why you're not getting all of the information from creators or influencers right now.
A power user is not about how much money you can make
Yeah.
or how many followers you have. I think it's more so what type of impact are you making on any given community. If it's small, big, doesn't matter. If you have a good idea or something, like, I want to know about it.
I'm kind of scared for boomers right now.
Hmm.
Like the technology is so good and so convincing, even if it is hallucinating. We just had this news story came out about people here in Canada falling for these deepfakes, and people started signing up for this phishing attempt because the deepfake was so accurate.
So we titled this live stream AI ADHD. I thought it was a cool title. I see Millington here in the chat says AI's unlocked my ADHD pattern recognition. It's like I've leveled up. Before we roll into the few topics that we're going to cover here today, could you just give us a little bit of a background on that? How'd
Yeah, absolutely. So I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was a teenager, and I was really lucky enough to have two parents who just helped me experiment with different types of systems that worked for me and help me actually just live my life. And those are systems that I still use today. And then when we started getting into our 30s, I had more and more friends getting diagnosed with ADHD, getting diagnosed as neurodivergent, and I was just watching them relearn life again with this and try to figure out how to just live their day to day. So I wanted to help them. So I started reading all of these different studies on non-pharmaceutical treatments of ADHD and just reading all of those scientific and academic papers gave me a lot of ideas on how to build tools for people with ADHD and help them like deal with executive dysfunction. And so I've used my extensive background in building reinforcement learning systems and started building Asaura AI finally last year, mainly because it was time. I don't think that there's never been really a better time to be an entrepreneur than right now, considering like how much cheap technology there is out there to help you build your all of your operations. So that's how so Sorry AI really started just like years ago when I started finding or looking for ways to help my friends live their lives more successfully.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that actually rolls into the first topic perfectly because, like you mentioned, I think a lot of people would agree it's a great time to be an entrepreneur. I think that a lot of the obstacles have been removed now,
Yeah.
whether it's education or just having the right technological tools to build something cool.
Yeah.
But I guess this is the first kind of point here that we want to get into, which is it's easy to keep the ball rolling while it's rolling, right? But
Yeah.
how do you actually start? And I think
Yeah.
I'll just give you a quick example on my end. I had a friend ask me how do you even start with AI? And I really had to think about it for a second because I'm like, how did I start? And I started because I had a specific use case that I wanted to, so I had this idea and I wanted to do it. And
Yeah.
that was Substack. So really, they went hand in hand together. And then once I started and the ball got rolling, it just got easier and easier.
Yeah.
So I think really this first topic is really important because it's like, how do you actually, it's almost like an object at rest tends to stay at rest, right? An
Yeah.
object in motion tends to stay in motion. Like, how do you actually get the ball rolling? How do you start?
So I think definitely motivation and task initiation refer to different things, but in terms of how you can start and how a Sora is built is that it's focused on one basic physical movement in order to actually get the ball rolling for yourself. You can want to finish a project and know exactly what it involves and still sit there and begin. And the problem is friction based and affects far more people than a lot of productivity tools acknowledge. So the main thing that Asaura is built on is called hierarchical task analysis, which organizes the breakdown of a task by starting with the physical point that you need to enter that specific task. So writing an essay could be like open your document or open your notebook. So my advice to anybody who is dealing with executive dysfunction or being able to just start on a specific task is to start with the first physical movement and then go from there. Of course, it's a lot more complex than that, but yeah, that's it's everything that I do is focused on actually getting physically moving.
Yeah, it's interesting. And yeah, probably at the end of the stream, I want you to link Asaura AI. And for those of you who didn't see, we posted a collaborative article yesterday with all the links in there as well. It's on my page and on Hodman's page as well. So it's an interesting question here because seen a whole lot of people saying that it's easier to start than ever because of AI.
Yeah,
And I think that actually there's kind of two angles to it because yeah, it might be easier to start when you actually know what to start doing.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
But if you don't know what, then I guess you're just talking to a chatbot at that point, right? Before you really dive into the whole world of AI and you get into
yeah,
agents and you get into the rabbit hole, actually. So, yeah,
yeah. And a lot of people can't even start the chatting part. AI automation is so awesome in terms of all the things that it can do even at this early stage, but it does assume that you have enough capacity to set it up, to configure it, to direct it toward the right problem or the problem that you're trying to solve. But when someone is in a state of overwhelm or executive dysfunction, even prompting an AI can feel like it's a task too many. The way that I explain executive dysfunction, I always give the cleaning out your closet example. Sure, I need to clean my closet, but that has all of these different steps like grabbing garbage bags or figuring out what clothes to throw out or getting cleaning supplies. And that's just for a basic spring cleaning task. So when it comes to AI, this entire beast, it's even harder, especially if it's a productivity tool that doesn't acknowledge that the first main problem is task initiation. So I designed Asora so the barrier to entry is as low as possible. You type in a few words or a rough description of what's in front of you, and Asora does the work of turning that into something. You can start by breaking it down into micro steps. So you don't really need to prompt it well. If all you can get right now is just get out right now is just wash the dishes, then you just it'll make sure that all you do need to do is just show up for that first physical movement.
yeah, yeah. This kind of ties into with another creator that I was speaking with, Daniel Nest, and we had a whole stream about AI overwhelm.
Yeah.
And if you're in this world at all and you're somewhat on social media,
Yeah.
it's overwhelming
Yeah.
because and I don't have really any issues with this. I think everybody's doing their thing and it's great. But you have a lot of competition between different AI models. You have a lot of competition between creators or even just people saying, "Hey, if you can't make $10,000 with AI, you're wasting your time."
Yeah.
But then also, do you really need AI for everything?
Yeah.
And I've mentioned this in some previous streams as well, where it's like, we'll keep the ball rolling on these topics. I don't want to go on too much of a tangent,
No, it's okay.
but there's like this term that people use, which is called like power users, like AI power users, and different people have different definitions for that. So I'll just give my quick idea about it. So I try to stay off social media. It's hard to now because I'm part of it, but mostly I don't have Instagram. I don't have Twitter, X. I'm basically on YouTube and Substack, and
Yeah.
that takes up enough of my time.
Yeah.
And
And
basically, yeah, I haven't,
I need to start YouTube, and it's just so daunting. Sorry, keep going.
no, it's all good. Basically, I have an AI algorithm feeding me AI content. And it's use this tool, don't use that tool. You can make this much money doing that and XYZ and ABC.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming. And I totally get it for people that are not even thinking about AI on a daily basis and they want to hop in and get started. So I would say for me, like a power user is not about how much money you can make
Yeah.
or how many followers you have. I think it's more so what type of impact are you making on any given community. If it's small, big, doesn't matter. And that's also why even here on Substack, like I try to speak to everybody as much as I can, even though it could be time consuming. But if you have a good idea or something, like I want to know about it. So That's why I'm here today with Hodman because this is a completely different angle to just talking about AI in general and just having a conversation about it and bringing like a human element to it.
Yeah. I will say those creators that make vague statements about how much money you can make with AI and then don't give anything else, it's important to know that a lot of those people are also selling consulting services. So they will vaguely say something to get somebody's interest, and instead of actually giving the entire framework away, because that framework is what they charge money for. The earlier version of this was the how to build a brand. The person who built their brand on LinkedIn by talking about how to build a brand, but they would never really tell you how. So it's important just to remember that if you feel confused, there's a reason why you're not getting all of the information from creators or influencers right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think this rolls into the next topic nicely here as well. And this is like a term that I've heard tossed around. I'm not too familiar with it. So I'll ask you. So the second topic is basically most AI tools assume a neurotypical brain. So
Yeah.
what is a neurotypical brain? How do I know if I have one or if I don't? And yeah, what does this mean?
So neurotypical brains means that you can look at a for me, neurotypical brain means that you look at the world in a linear way. This is this because of that, and you just accept it. But for neurodivergent people, you can, let's say, look at a list of, let's say, a to-do list, and it doesn't really allow you like, my brain doesn't really allow me to see that list in a numbered way. So for, let's say, for my ADHD, I won't be able I'm also neurodivergent because I have this learning disability that doesn't let me even get started on the smallest things. So I'm doing a really bad job of answering this right now.
No, it's okay. It's all good. You're doing good.
It's okay. So let's say like a productivity AI like Asana is built on behavioral data from people who were already functioning well enough to generate it. And so that data reflects a particular kind of brain, one that responds to reminders and works linearly through a list and like measures a good day by how much we got done. So those assumptions are already in Asana before anyone asks whether they hold for everyone, and they don't. So for somebody who's exhausted or whose brain doesn't really process task pressure the way those defaults assume, a completion rate metric isn't really a measure of success. So it's a more of a sort of source of shame. So I built a sort of just like measure that success by whether somebody started something or that they've been avoiding or whether they finished the session without losing momentum. Yeah.
Awesome. No, I think you answered it pretty good there. I wouldn't say
It's
that
kind
that
of
was a
so
bad
weird to say
answer.
that.
That's all good. Yeah, I appreciate everybody in the chat as well. We'll try and we won't try. We will answer all the chats towards the end of the stream. So stick around. Really appreciate it. So I guess I could say this. I don't know what category I fall in. If just a quick one, I see like Hillary says it's neurotypical equals normal, neurodivergent equals extraordinary. So
Yeah.
ordinary versus extraordinary. I think everybody wants to be extraordinary,
Yeah.
but it doesn't seem that's necessarily like quite like the box that this topic fits into. It's not, I don't think it's probably just ordinary and extraordinary. It's probably like a spectrum of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will say for me, I think, and it kind of ties into the first topic as well. I have a little bit of an obsessive personality in terms of like when I start something, I just go crazy about it. And consistency to me is everything. I will not, if I tell myself, it could be with anything. If I tell myself I'm going to wake up every day and I'm going to make sure that I stretch and do push ups, I'm going to do that
Yeah.
for forever. So, but, or even with Substack, I just had this crazy idea one day where I'm just going to post every day and I never stopped. And obviously, I think I've gotten to this point because of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know what category that necessarily puts me in, but I think, at least for me personally, I'll just try to stay out of the categories. Like
Yeah.
I'm just me. It is what it is. And I think the same for you. Obviously, everybody's an individual and special in their own way. I'm not going to put you in a box or me in a box or I think we all have something to bring to the table, whether or not it's harder for us to, let's even in this conversation of starting, stopping, being consistent. I think one thing across the board is no matter where you are in the process, there's definitely moments of being overwhelmed. So
Yeah.
I think we can at least all agree there. So let's see. I like this next topic as well. And I actually had an article about this recently. And it's also part of the article that we collaborated on. So trusted AI is harder than cheap AI. So I want to hear what you have to say about this, and then I'll kind of give my 2 cents on it.
So you can get a competent AI response to almost any question for almost nothing right now. And I think that's pretty cool. And it happened so quickly. It just came out, it happened so quickly. What hasn't happened is that AI that knows your patterns, it remembers how you get stuck. It understands that you work well in the mornings and fall apart after a draining afternoon and adjusts accordingly. That kind of knowing takes a lot of longitudinal data, a lot of careful design, and a product that's actually built around a specific person's experience rather than a general use case. If you go into Asaura right now and you put in a task, you will see, I think, 5 different feedback buttons that I use to help the AI know who you are and where you get stuck. And then it eventually it starts out general, but eventually that account eventually adjusts to that person. And that kind of so knowing somebody well enough to support them on a hard day is harder to build and harder to scale than general purpose assistance, which is what a lot of the LLMs out there do and a lot of the productivity tools out there do. And it's also where the value is right now, especially for people whose capacity varies depending on what their day has already demanded of them. So most AI gets better at doing more things. Asora is built around that different idea that what people need isn't a more capable assistant. It's one that actually remembers how they work and adapt to them over time. So getting started on a task when you're already depleted is a lot easier when the tool has learned your patterns rather than asking you to explain yourself from scratch every time.
Interesting. I think that's a really good idea. Um, so as before I get into what I think about trusted versus not trusted or cheap AI versus trusted AI, I think you brought up a good point there. Um, AI is a very individual experience. So it's funny, like I had this conversation with another creator, Andrea Chiarelli, and at one point during the conversation, and he's in consulting, and they use Claude at his company. And he was like, my Claude is better than my coworker's Claude. And then I stopped him there. I'm like, did you just realize I said my Claude? So it AI kind of synchronizes with the human that's using it over time. And the more you use it, the more of an individual experience it becomes.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the most interesting things about this.
Yeah.
Because this is no longer just like a machine computer. Like this is something that kind of molds around you, figures out
Yeah.
what you like, and then like constantly tries to be agreeable with you
Yeah.
until you tell it like, actually, I don't like this anymore. And they'll say, oh, you know what? Yeah, you're right. We should try a different angle. Um, but in terms of like trusted AI versus cheap AI, um, this kind of goes into this idea of, in my opinion, the gap between AI that the public uses versus AI that private governments and corporations have access to. This is like a little bit of a different um, road with this topic, but like a lot of people, and I see this even like with I think a lot of older people as well. Um, they use ChatGPT and they just take the answers as correct every time.
Yeah.
They don't double check it. They don't look at references. They don't dig a little bit deeper. They're not aware of hallucinations.
Yeah.
And I think in the professional world, with stronger models, they have AI that not only is stronger, but more trustworthy. So I think that's also the split between AI that you can trust and cheap AI as well. And I think
Yeah.
that gap is going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important for people to hear. Don't just say a chat GPT told me or a Claude told me, and therefore this is correct. do a little digging, realize there's some bias built into these systems, and it's trying to make you happy or be agreeable with you. So just take that
Yeah.
in, into account.
Yeah, and I think that goes, like, deeper into people having critical thinking skills to begin with,
Yeah.
which I don't know, I'm kinda scared for boomers right now,
Mhm.
especially, like, my mom, and we always make sure she's not, like, answering to phishing attempts or anything. But, like, the technology is so good and so convincing. All these even if it is hallucinating, we just had this news story came out about a bunch of people here in Canada falling for these deepfakes because this one scammer sent out these very realistic news updates of Mark Carney making an announcement about this new investment fund, and people started signing up for this phishing attempt because the deepfake was so accurate. I watched it on the CBC. And it was just yeah. There's a lot of need for people to develop like critical and thinking skills right now. I don't know how that's done, but yeah,
I agree 100%. Critical thinking is just lacking right now. And I
yeah,
think anybody coming into AI, especially since we're talking about starting with it, go into it not as this is my friend, but like I have to almost build trust with a
yeah,
new person that I just met. Don't go into it trusting it. Just go into it saying, I don't trust you.
yeah.
And then let's go from there and literally double check everything. At the end of the day, I'll just give a funny example. I had an article and I always use references in my articles. And I used a reference from 2024 and someone commented and said, "Yeah, that's old news. That's 2024. That was 2 years ago."
Yeah.
And that's partly true when we're talking about AI with how fast things are moving. But I was like, at the same time, based on what I'm talking about here, it is relevant because
Yeah.
I'm talking about corporatization of AI and this specific topic. 2024 was turning point for this. So I always go into things saying, I need references and I want to go check what humans wrote about this and what actually happened in the real world
Yeah.
because it's very easy to get tricked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it isn't like AI, like I don't know if I don't think you do, but if you use even like TikTok, like it's just I downloaded it just like after COVID, and there's just so many convincing people there that are just like convincingly saying all of these inaccurate things. And I was just like scrolling through it for a bit, and I understood how so much like vaccine disinformation like was able to spread on that app because like people like it's just 30 seconds of somebody speaking super confidently about a completely incorrect thing. Yeah, there's a lot of it out there.
Yeah.
There's a big need for critical thinking skills right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Critical thinking is lacking. And I think,
Yeah.
like, in general, with how polarized everything is now in the world, don't get too caught up in your ideologies. Allow yourself to be able to think critically on every single topic separately. So I get it. Last topic here, and then we'll answer some chats. And yeah. So, last topic here is the scariest AI failures are often invisible. So, what do we got on this, Hubman?
So the two AI failures that like the main AI failures that I used to deal with weren't really hallucinations because like at least like you can ask a model more questions about like hallucinations, but when it comes to let's say model drift, that's a lot harder to see or that it like what to see that it's actually like happening within like your AMI model. So model drift happens when the model's prediction accuracy degrades over time because like the underlying real world data distribution changed after you deploy the model. So a model that's trained to let's say predict credit risk using historical income data, like that becomes inaccurate if there's like a pandemic or there's a recession or a bunch of bloated tech companies are readjusting their headcounts and all of that causes widespread job loss at the same time. So when it comes to I think model drift is like one of the most dangerous like data inaccuracies because it's so hard to catch if you're not like consistently watching it, which is also like why I don't think that AI will ever fully or anytime soon fully manage like data systems aside from just like agents doing like little things here and there just because the data that we that all of these like corporations use for their models like actually need babysitting, especially if it's used for like financial reasons or if it's like a healthcare company. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think to bring like light to the situation here in terms of AI failures, I'll give an example, a funny one that happened recently. I've mentioned it before, but I'll mention it again for people here that haven't heard of it and for Hotman as well. So I was sitting there alone in my office and I was trying to make a thumbnail for a video. And I use Nano Banana 2, which is with Gemini from Google. And basically, it's a pretty simple process, but I get my prompt from ChatGPT for the image, and then I plug it into Nano Banana 2 with basically what looks like just a screenshot from the video. And basically, it wasn't working. And Nano Banana 2 has always been really good for me. So what was happening was it kept generating random faces. And the whole point of it is to keep it realistic. I want our faces to be in the thumbnail, right? So long story short, it wasn't working. I went on Down Detector. Too many people were using Gemini. So
Oh,
it couldn't
yeah.
work. And then the funny part about this is so at a certain point I asked it, okay, what do you see in this image? I just gave it the screenshot again of me and the other creator. This was Daniel Nest. And it said, I see the original Mona Lisa. And basically that at that point made first of all, I started laughing and I was like sitting alone in a room. And then I said, okay, at this point now, I have to go and try a different model and whatever. I'll get a thumbnail from a different model, a different company at this point. And I did. And that was fine. And I think like mentioning AI failures in general is like a more original angle to attack AI because everybody's always talking about how good it is and what you could do with it, not necessarily where it breaks. And I think knowing where it breaks and how to maneuver that situation is something that isn't spoken about enough.
Yeah.
And so I sent it over to Daniel and he's, oh, this is awesome. Every Sunday he in his article, he will include a section of an AI fail. And I'm like, dude, I absolutely love that. Not enough people are doing that. So that's my quick story about AI fails.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's really funny. It's not the original Mona Lisa. Have you told an AI, because I did this the other, have you told an AI that you're gonna go ask another model or another company's AI and it immediately starts working and gives you the right answer? I don't like that.
That's an interesting question. I haven't tried that. I can give a little background on that. This is some information that I received from Chris from Toxic, TOXSEC. A little bit more on the technical side. So in code review, they had this, I don't know if you would call it an experiment. So in a way, it's anecdotal. I don't think they did it across multiple models, across multiple tests, but basically they had Codex, which is from OpenAI, and Claude Code. And they sent code from Codex over to Claude Code, said, hey, this is code from Codex from OpenAI. Can you review this and point out any mistakes here? And it found so many mistakes,
Yeah.
so many. And then at the same time, when you gave it code and you didn't mention that it was from a different model, it would find less issues. So I think there's some bias built into these models where it's like
Absolutely.
somebody wrote in if somebody says something about a different company model or this that maybe say how you could do it better.
Yeah.
I've
Uh,
noticed this for me personally of again back to thumbnails. I'll just quickly mention like when you use Gemini, it has that little watermark. It has a physical watermark and a digital watermark. Now, when I upload a thumbnail to YouTube, I have to remove the physical watermark. I
yeah.
can't leave it there. The digital
Yeah.
watermark is still there, and I'm always very transparent that I use AI to generate my images. But like when I go back into ChatGPT, it gives me a rating for my thumbnails, and I usually
Yeah.
have 4 or 5 iterations. And I noticed when I give it the thumbnail without the watermark, the results are quite different than when I give it with the watermark. So it knows that watermark is from Gemini. Again, anecdotal, but it's an interesting question for sure.
When I sometimes okay, so I use Gemini and Notebook LM to just organize all my thoughts and all my research for Asaura AI and just, yeah, making sure I stay on top of that. And sometimes I will give something from Gemini to Claude Code or Codex, and they immediately start talking about Gemini. And it's very funny to me because Gemini never does that. But yeah, there's definitely some something in there that something discriminatory towards other models in there.
Yeah, it's interesting. Um,
What are
so
people
yeah, I
asking
guess
here?
let's see.
Uh,
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said, yeah, what are people asking in the chat? I
Yeah,
wasn't really looking.
yeah, we'll go through some chats now and then we'll wrap it up. Let's see. All right. Millington says, I get imposter syndrome. Just do one thing. That's my rule. Just one. After that, the
Yeah.
little bully in my brain goes away.
Yep.
Good point.
That's it. Just get up and do something, which
Yeah.
is much harder for someone experiencing executive dysfunction. But it like he Millington makes a really good point about that. Just get up
Yeah.
and do something physical.
Absolutely. Will Ty says, agreed. The problem is knowing what to start doing with AI, plus which models to use, and the associated costs still a struggle.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
agree. I think these days also, and I've spoken about this before, like you could now use local LLMs. One really good way to start with that is if you go to Google, you type in Olama, Ollama.
yeah.
I learned about this from Andrea Chiarelli, and you could literally have an LLM just on your computer, separate from the internet. You can be on airplane mode
Yeah.
at no cost.
When I started like experimenting with these models, I was running DeepSeek. I started running DeepSeek locally with Llama, and it worked really well. Just because there's the whole, I wanted to test out DeepSeek. There's the whole just like privacy concerns that I had. But if you run it locally, then it's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. I see a couple chats. I think that's in French. I don't read French. Sorry.
Sorry.
Steve V. McQueen says, we connect the dots and it looks like a mind map instead of a list. I think this
The
was in
problem-
regards to that.
the reason why it's so hard to explain neurodivergence or even autism is that like it's just so diverse when it comes to just like measuring the way that a neurodivergent person's brain works. Like it's just so diverse like amongst people, and there's like such a wide spectrum, and it's just yeah, it's hard, and it's even hard
Yeah.
to get diagnosed with it as well, especially if like for me. Like my parents had to fight me to fight to get me diagnosed because a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists in Canada still measure what autism or like neurodivergence is based on studies that were mostly done on like straight white males. So like in a woman, like it presents like much differently. So what my like neurodivergence is like won't be like anywhere close to what yours is. But yeah. Thank you, Steve
Makes
McQueen.
sense. Makes sense. Steve McQueen or Stevie? All right.
Stevie
Either way,
McQueen.
Stevie. Diamantino says, sometimes this AI thing feels like a show, and most pay premium to see the spectacle in search of a solution that seem don't even to exist. Yeah, and then he says I already replied to Hillary on that one, and then Diamantino says to reply to Will Ty, I suggest learn about LLMs, and from there understand what model does what best. I agree 100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
just
ADHD is
experiment.
interest based. So I the validation I did a validation stage before I started building anything and interviewed like a lot of like neurodivergent, like ADHD people. And the one thing the ADHD people had in common amongst each other is that if they lose interest, like there's no getting them back to doing something or even starting it. So it's very specifically interest based.
Interesting. So let's see. Hillary says, neurotypical people equals in a box, neurodivergent people a box. We bought crayons and a variety of snacks. That's hilarious. That's a different language. And then Hillary again, that's really cool. Can we find that here on your Substack or on a website somewhere else? Yeah, link
So
it in the chat.
that's the website for Asaura. This is one of my So between thinking and doing is it's expanded, but I originally used it to build a Sora in public. So if you go like to the beginning back in January, you can look at all those logs, and I made all of the most of those articles free. And then there's the data letter. So the data letter was my first Substack. I started it back in June because I had and I still have all of these notebooks, like notes and journal entries that I put down just like chronicling my data career. And there were just so many data people, especially and young people who were trying to get into data and they couldn't. And I just wanted to share my experience with people. And so that's how I started on Substack. And the data letter was my first Substack. But those are
Awesome.
3 links that you can go to right now, and oh, actually my LinkedIn.
Yeah,
I'm gonna link that too.
absolutely. Link it. Everybody go subscribe to Hubman everywhere. Let's see. Millington says my Claude is the best Claude. That's funny. Hillary, don't forget that AI may be tailored to you, but it's not your AI and someone else is collecting your data from it. 100% they're collecting your data. If you want to avoid that, you could use local models like we mentioned. But
Okay.
I'm even a little sketchy about that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I just somebody asked me the other day if there's something that I wouldn't use AI for ever, and it's definitely finance stuff. That kind of really sketches me out. I just would never use it for anything financial, but yeah.
Really? I
Yeah.
have, to
Okay.
be honest. Yeah. I saved a bunch of money because health insurance here is really messed up. And so I
Yeah.
was able to get a bunch of money back. I won't go into the whole story, but
Okay.
yeah, I was like, you know what? It's more worth it to me to screw over this health insurance company. Uh, let's see. Martin White says, I find myself saying I was talking with my AI and that. Do you ever direct your AI to check itself in regards to staying focused on the discussion? I would say, yeah, and get lost in the sauce sometimes. Hillary says, why can't AI keep the original prompt fresh as the conversation progresses? That's a
Yeah.
good question. I could touch on that if unless you'd like to touch on it, Admin.
Sorry, 1 second. What was the question again? Hillary said,
Yeah. Why can't AI keep the original prompt fresh as the conversation progresses?
"It's to save space." So if you've been talking to Gemini or even Claude for a while, it compresses the old parts of the conversation, and so that's why sometimes you have to remind it, like, information about what you were talking about originally. So that it compresses itself to save space and let you keep talking to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's something called context windows, and those context windows get compressed as you use AI more and more. And unfortunately, if you pay more, then you get more. That's just the way it is. That's the world we live in. There's a few more chats here. I do kind of have to wrap up. I'll try and answer a couple more. Before I do, I just linked that's the YouTube channel, Exploring ChatGPT Live on YouTube. I post the streams there and all that fun stuff. So you could either copy paste that link or just go to YouTube and type in Exploring ChatGPT Live. You'll find these streams. This stream will be up there as well within a few days. I'll try and answer one more chat and then I'm going to have to run.
Okay. Can I answer this one? Can you tell us
Yeah.
how graph works and how it's helpful? Yeah. Okay. So Asaura AI, so it's a productivity system that's built to help your brain when you can't get started on something, whether it is because you have ADHD and are dealing with executive dysfunction or you're neurodivergent, or if you're just like, if it's 4 p.m. and you're in the office and you're like, your brain just happens to be tired. So there's 3 layers to how the system breaks down the tasks that you put into it. So there's a curated set of templates for the most common stuck moments. So, like washing dishes, writing a cover letter, brushing your teeth, packing a bag for a trip. So, those override everything else because I verified them. And then the second is a large library of breakdown patterns that are derived from open source how to data. And those are indexed by verb plus noun. So, the matcher roots make a smoothie to a smoothie template. And then the third is the feedback. So every step has mentioned earlier, like a too small, too big, still stuck buttons, thumbs up and down, of course. So if you tap too big and a sort of reframes the step as a 30-second commitment. So the goal of the too big button is just to get you moving. And then if you tap, let's say still stuck, and you get a kind of this fresh physical anchor that I was referring to earlier, and you can just work through the steps. There's also a low energy mode that starts you're like the easy end of the sequence of the micro steps on the days like where your brain is tired, and it just connects you straight to that next physical movement to at least start that task and get some of it done. So I'm not trying to make the system one size fits all. So it's trying to like adapt mid flow without making you feel like you've failed at something. But yeah, my what do you call it? My advice is just go in and go try it out. That you get 3 free task breakdowns a day, and the more you use it, the better I make it. I'm shipping updates based on user behavior twice a week. So yeah, I put the links there
Awesome.
at startai.com.
Awesome. Everybody check out AsauraAI.com. That's ASAURA
Yeah.
RAAI.com. And the link is there in the chat. Subscribe to Hodman, Between Thinking and Doing, the day later. And yeah, we will wrap up now and go about our days. Everybody enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
for
for
having
joining.
me. Bye.
Bye now.